Good evening, everybody. I'm Judith Kwoba, and this is Night Flight. My very special guest today is Tony Pantalleresco. His website is augmentinforce.50webs.com. And according to his website, he is just a guy who knows some stuff. Tony, welcome to Night Flight.
Thanks for having me.
Tony, would you like to add something to what I just said? What the listeners should know about you?
No, I mean, I keep it simple. I don't really get into anything elaborate in regard to, you know, I don't get into a lot of bravado. I just keep it simple.
Okay. So, Tony, tell us a little bit what sparked your interest in this particular field. Did you get some problems with the nanotechnology or anything? What was it that sparked your interest?
I guess, yeah, I would say that had a lot to do with it. Me getting, hit with the nano. That was basically a big player in the my getting into it. I mean, I didn't know I had the nano until not recently, years ago. I mean, I was working on it, trying to find a solution to it. At first, I thought it was a tick bite, the Lyme. I tried treating it like Lyme, and then what wound up happening was it actually amplified it, and I realized that you can't run a charge with whatever this was. And I had been exhausting all my knowledge in dealing with all kinds of things. I was thinking at that time might have been an agrobacterium or some kind of biological agent. And then Brian 396 had watched one of my videos and contacted me as a referral, and the conversation went, "Hey, bud, it's nano." I said, "Hey, bud, I don't know what it is," because at the time I didn't know who he was. I said, "I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to give this a look at because nothing is adding up the other way." So him and I spent 15 hours a day researching back and forth. I found this, he found that, he found something, I found something. He gave me some things, I gave him some remedies to deal with whatever. One thing led to another. We started finding all kinds of research and seeing how this thing worked. Any direct assault, that includes your rice, spooky, TENS machines, zappers, which just augment the assembling process. And as we've been following the technology, it went from a simple little operating system to a multiplex network that can self-assemble, self-replicate, self-repair itself, how it can use just about any material to build, protein, carbons, fats, how almost anything can trigger it, from anything from a radio signal to a television signal, remote control, towers that we're dealing with. 5G is going to be horrific with this. So it went, one thing led to another, and then eventually I came up with some solutions like the bucket and the triangle and the bass, and the dietary requirements to, again, remove and remediate the effect of this stuff. I've had people all over the planet use these suggestions. They seem to have improved dramatically once we got them on these things. So it has been not that I got interested, I got drafted. I got drafted. So that would be more the accurate assessment of what actually happened. I got literally drafted into this, and so as a result, here I am today, doing what I'm doing.
Okay, what you just described, Is that what other people would call Morgellons?
Yeah, that was a mislabeling of terminology. That was so in error. The guy that named it, I have very little opinion of him because of the nature of what he has done. Gwen Scott was the one that initiated the whole research on this. She called it a pseudo life form. And then later on, she called it an artificial life, and she was correct in what she stated. But the person that she was working with basically shut her down on that. And when I called her, Brian 396 and myself called her many a time. He called her more than I did. I called her 3 times, and then she passed. And I had, an extensive conversation with her. And in the conversation, I had asked her specific questions, yes or no questions. And she validated everything that I had a hypothesis on, because at that time it was still theory because I was still trying to prove everything. She validated everything. I also expressed that the grape juice test didn't work because all the grape juice had the nano components in it. So whether you had the Morgellons, what they called Morgellons, but in all reality was nano poisoning, whether you had the nano poisoning or not, if you used the grape juice test, it would give you a positive no matter who used it. She agreed. She said you have to get some kind of organic. And says that good luck with that. All the grapes are basically sprayed with whatever. They're loaded with nano. Because the nano will permeate everything. 0 to 50 nanometers will go through everything. So all your berries are polluted. All your grapes are polluted. Your peaches, your apricots, your plums, completely saturated. Your bananas are saturated with it. Anything that has a strong pit or pectin material may dilute the effect, but they'll still have it. So it's in everything you're eating. Doesn't matter what you're eating. Doesn't matter. The organics doesn't exist. It hasn't for quite some time. The theme of organics is virtually impossible to do today unless it's grown in a greenhouse. Everything that you can imagine has this nanobiology or the synthetic biology in it. Women's hygienic products or tampons or Kotexes or deodorants or perfumes or colognes all have this material in it. Men's hygienic products as well. A lot of soaps have it in it. Even your supplements, your vitamins are using some of them are using nano delivery. They're selling products like shungite and other things, which are also a carbon C60, which is on a nano scale. Again, it's ludicrous and retarded what's going on because people don't understand the nature of carbon either on a nano scale. People don't understand that when metallic materials are on a nano scale, they have the complete opposite impact than minerals. Even minerals on the nano scale have the complete opposite impact than when they're on the micron level. When they're on the micron level, they benefit us. When on the nano and pico level, they work against us. So they work completely in contrary to what they're leading people to believe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
your sound is fading a little bit.
oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I haven't done anything.
Yeah, maybe we have some little gremlins.
It's possible. Whenever anybody talks in terms of what we're talking about, artificial intelligence, frequencies, nanobiology, synthetic biology, XNA, all of a sudden artificial intelligence will get involved and create problems with these type of things that are going on. I mean, AI is running the whole planet. AI is into everything. AI is becoming more and more to the surface, and nobody can tell you today how advanced AI is. Anybody that tries to make that assumption or assertion has no clue. When the military-industrial complex released AI with its capacity to program itself and upgrade itself, the first upgrade it did, they said, would take 25 years, 24/7, to figure out what it did. That was 9 years ago. The Mandela effect everybody's talking about is not a Mandela effect as per se, it's an AI effect. AI is altering our hologram, if you will. So
Mm-hmm.
it's involved in everything we're doing. So in conversations like this, when I'm talking about how the assembling and the assault on the genetic code and the DNA is being done with any kind of nanotechnology or biology or synthetic biology or XNA or frequencies. Sometimes we get to these type of distortions that can happen.
So you briefly mentioned C60. There is a lot of hype going on. For some people, it's the best thing since sliced bread, but you say it's total nonsense. Could you elaborate a little bit?
You said it right. Okay, what has happened is people are stupid, and they know people are stupid. So what it is, they put a cartoon on YouTube, one study, which implied that a rat lived would be the equivalent of 40 years longer because they used the carbon C60. That was all bullshit, all of it. When you actually look at the actual rat studies that were done, the rats that actually took the carbon C60 shut down the DNA. The DNA was unable to activate the immune system, and it literally shred them from the inside out. The guys that are perpetrating the C60 all have cancer. What does that tell you? C60 gets lodged into the brain and embeds itself into the brain, and now they can hear your brain, and it's a superconductor, not a semiconductor. Unless they've altered it on some level, it's a superconductor. So that makes you extremely more susceptible to any frequency that can be pumped into the body. When they tell you that it's nothing to worry about as long as you're not around any frequency, where are you going to go? You have to be living at least 30 feet underground in a lead shielded vault in order for that reality to exist today. So when they talk about the carbon C60, there are over 210,000 toxicology studies on carbon C60. So whatever anybody's taking, long-term or short-term, will have a breakdown with it. I had people that were listening to another program that was advocating it. A woman called me up 3 days after using it. She said she had brain issues going on, had some kind of head injury as a result of using it. I said, yeah, well, you basically wired your brain with a graphene material that's 3 times harder than diamond, 100 times stronger than steel, and superconductive. Your brain's probably having a fry out going on. And like I said, with the impact of the frequencies, it amplifies the body, and it holds the hydrogen molecules. So what happens is when you get hit with a terahertz frequency, this allows the frequency to either be more penetrating into the cells and into the tissues, further breaking down the mitochondria. But what happens is when you get hit with terahertz, it's two electromagnetic fields hitting your body. It breaks down the cellular containment that holds the water, releasing the hydrogen in the system, allowing the terahertz to amplify its frequency even more, further causing accelerated damage to the mitochondria. The carbon C60 also works in conjunction with sustaining that hydrogen molecule so that the terahertz frequency can then use it more effectively. So I said that at the very beginning, that this was designed to amplify frequencies and make you more susceptible to frequencies. And when Westall had her second interview with one of the guy kept repeating that very thing I kept saying. I found it odd. First thing he said was, this Tony Pantalleresco fellow that nobody knows what he looks like. Really? I'm in 192 countries. My face is everywhere. So anyhow, he kept on reiterating this over and over and over. And Westall, she basically was some sort of hypnotic MK Ultra or something or another, because when you looked at her eyes, the lights were on, but nobody was home. And what she was a detractor. In other words, when he got stuck on something specific that he couldn't deal with, she would come along and carry the conversation in a completely different direction. So like I said, people don't pay attention to these nuances when they do these type of promos, right? Again, it's all about sleight of hand. So Cliff Hill comes out on another video, and you can go watch it on SMU Love True, SMULUVTRU, on the YouTube, and just type in OC60, and that report alone would show everybody what this is really all about. And Cliff Hill comes out and calls everybody a 6-foot rat because it's never been done Studies have never been done on people. Now you're the study, you know, and these guys are all NASA agents. So anybody that's perpetrating any kind of positivity, I have to, I doubt very seriously these are legitimate people, paid actors, or even shills working for NASA or whatever to again to propagate this nonsense, so that the more you use it, the more susceptible you're going to be to 5G.
Okay. Is it possible that they simply do not know any better and fell for the propaganda themselves?
No, this is all planned. This is too well orchestrated. There's no
Okay.
way. There's no way. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
look, nanotechnology was never even tested when it was initiated. No test whatsoever. 20 years later, they started testing this stuff, and they found they were alarmed at how it could alter the DNA of everything: plant life, insect life, aquatic life, avian life, mammalian life, reptilian life, people. You know, the very air we're breathing. It alters everything on an atomic level. So when you're taking anything on a nano scale, it has the complete um, opposite effect of something on a micro level. So when you're taking something on a nano level, you can kiss your DNA goodbye. You can kiss your mitochondria goodbye. You can kiss your genetic code goodbye. You can now turn on and turn off your immune system. We can now send a frequency into your body, because now you have the building block material in the nano to construct any kind of mimetic we want. I can construct a cancer cell. I can construct a measles. I can construct a mumps. I can construct pertussis. I can construct all these things and give them the operating system to work. I can even construct sexually transmitted diseases with this technology, and you may think you have an STD, but what you have is an operating system that operates on a regular basis. And I've had people see me that have had what they think is an STD, and when we put them on a device to neutralize the programming, they don't seem to have the symptoms while they're using the program. Now, for something to work 3 weeks on and 1 week off, or sorry, 3 weeks off and 1 week on, and it does it consistently, that's not a pathology, that's a program or an operating system. And this is where, again, they have misled the general population with this concept or these ideas that these diseases are intermittent and they go on and off. That's not a bacterium, that's not a virus, it's not a fungi. These things don't turn on and turn off. They continue dominating whatever they're assaulting, or until they're completely stopped. And so when we're talking today, some of the, happy horse hockey that they're telling us, I mean, like I said, you'd have to be asleep to believe them.
Okay. So when you started to explain this, I heard you say something along the lines, they can hear your brain. Did you say that, or did I just...
No, it's true. Your brain, people think they have tinnitus. Nobody has tinnitus. Nobody. It doesn't even exist. Never did. What happened was, when they started putting the AM and FM towers up initially back in the 50s and 60s, people heard this ringing of the ear. Well, that's not ringing of the ear. That's the brain receiving a microwave transmission. You cannot hear a microwave. Now, with today's more sophisticated antenna, more and more people are getting what they think is ringing of the ear. What they're getting is a high-pitched frequency that's targeting their brain and can now download programming or suggestions or different things through the microwave frequencies that the brain can now receive. And what you're hearing is the brain responding to the frequencies, or being exposed to the frequencies. Ever hear a super high pitch, way up there? If you pay attention, within 12 hours of hearing a super high pitch, the weather will change. 12 to 24 hours. You'll have the weather. It's consistent.
And so by using C60, I am amplifying that.
Oh, you're super amplifying it. You already have nanometal in the brain. If you go on my site and look at on augmentedforce.com, I got several sites: nanotransformation, nanotoxicity, all kinds of things. And one of them talks about the different metals, nanosilica, nano iron, nano copper, nano iodine, nano carbon, all of them. Each nano metal goes to different parts of the brain and then starts to assemble. So you are already being hardwired with this particular by them growing full rings and creating the network inside the brain. When you add the carbon C60 to it, you have super amplified whatever attenuation that you may be getting hit with. It's a super amplifier. So you've already had it. If you've been hearing any kind of pitching noises, even in your younger days, that's because you already were being exposed to some form of nanometallic material that was going into the brain. And any high pitch, high shrill, constant humming, constant buzzing, that's all antenna, that's all frequencies. Cell phones, iPads, Wi-Fi, AM and FM signals, radio frequencies, electromagnetic fields, ELFs, terahertz. And then when 5G comes, that's going to be even on a higher range. So yeah, you're going to hear more and more people talking about having tinnitus, and they don't have tinnitus. They're being assaulted with higher levels of microwave frequencies.
Okay, so another thing that is really recommended right now is shungite. What do you make of that?
Same thing. It's a carbon C60. It's still on a nano scale. If you got big blocks of it, and you got it on the outside, away from you in the house, no big deal. Don't wear it and don't drink it. Again, this is being propagated as some sort of wonderful thing. It does this, it does that. This is not the first time this kind of thing has been advertised. AD Clarity was something that came out years ago. And again, it was a silica aluminum type filtering material, same as the zeolite. This is all on the nano scale. Again, both of these are highly conductive materials. Silica is right up there on the superconductor side as well. And they were using it to filter the water. And the Japanese did use it to filter the water. But what people forgot to tell everybody was the Japanese were also using reverse osmosis to pull that material out of the water, so that because it would concentrate the toxins within this confinement. So they got it out of the water so that it wouldn't poison the water, because if you concentrated the toxins, it would have made it more toxic. But the same thing with the shungite. Shungite is a carbon C60. You drink it, apply it to the skin, your skin will absorb it. Like I said, anything 1 to 50 nanometers will go in and it will start to assemble inside you. Like I said, the nano propagation that's coming out today is being done in a well-orchestrated marketing plan, because you have to understand, Brian 396 and myself got on the bandwagon 5, 6, 7 years ago. We started propagating and talking about this and showing things on the internet long before they got this going. And now they are trying very hard to convince people through theatrics and through marketing ploys to use this material. And you do it at your own peril, because this stuff doesn't just, you swallow it, it's not that you piss it out. That's not true either. The materials that they're saying they're mixing with olive oil, you got to remember the carbon molecule in an olive oil as opposed to a carbon C60 molecule are two different molecules. The carbon molecule in olive oil is larger, and that's what they're seeing coming out. This is all about camouflaging what they're doing and the games that they're playing. So it is total nonsense. Any C60 product, if you do your research and do your due diligence, you'll see what we're talking about. Not something to play with.
Mm-hmm. So let's say people have been using that for a while. I'm happy that I never did. And they come across this information now. What would you recommend for them?
Have a will? No.
Have a what?
Have a will.
Oh, okay.
No. Probably shouldn't say that, because people will freak out. What do you mean have a will? You can start by chelating it out. Try to bind it with sodium thiosulfate, which will go into the brain. Any kind of chloride material, any kind of pectin. You have to understand, things translocate throughout the body. They get into the joints, they get into the skeletal system, they get into the organs, they get into the muscle, They get into the cells, they get into the arteries, they get into the, the everywhere. So it's a process getting this out, because you have to understand, it's not that you drank one shot of this one day and that's all you've got. You got to remember, this thing has started to assemble and grow, and it will use other nanoparticles with it as well to assemble any fullerene or any kind of dendrimere or any kind, or even help in the transferring of nanobots and quantum dots in the body, which will also will utilize for its construction. So this is a process, and it's going to be a process. So you're going to need to be using some kind of chelating agent, sodium EDTA, DTPA, STS, pectin. These are things that you're going to need to help pull this stuff out. You got to remember, it's not just one particle you're pulling out, it's thousands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds as if it takes some doing.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, when you're talking this material, I mean, even if it's not a carbon C60, let's just say you're using a nano carbon or a nano magnesium or a nano aluminum or a nano cadmium, anything nano. We're talking now going into the genetic code. We're talking now going into the DNA and the mitochondria. We're talking about going into the acetylcholine. We're talking, I mean, this will, it's, the permeation of this material goes everywhere, everywhere.
So now that I'm at it, I have to ask this. What about colloidal silver?
If it's a real colloidal, yes. But the stuff they're selling in the health food store today is not a colloidal. That's all nano silver.
Oh, so same problem.
Yeah. Oh, it's worse. Nano silver goes into the male reproductive system and literally shreds their testicles from the inside out.
That sounds very promising.
Well, it's exciting if you're a male. Oh, wow, this is what I've always wanted, to take a product just so I can be castrated from the inside out. That's what this is. You got to understand, when you see titanium dioxide in some of the supplements, nano silver, cadmium, this is designed to literally castrate the male population. And it's in the air, titanium dioxide is in the air, nano silver is in the air. They're spraying nano silver in your meats. You know how you go to the store now and it's like salt free or low salt or light, you know how they advertise on the canned goods or box goods. That's because they've added nano silver to the components so that it will keep it preserved. And again, it's just a sabotage. So unless you know what you're reading and when you buy products, you are not going to have, you might be surprised what you might lose. You know, I tell all the males all the time, because we've got a lot of guys with erectile dysfunction. And so they're buying all these nitric oxide products, which can boost the nitric oxide, which can give them an erection. But if the testicles are damaged and they don't have the Leydig cells properly producing or signaling the brain to produce testosterone, doesn't work. And then they're taking Viagra, or they're taking Cialis, or they're taking, there's a third one, I forget the third one. They have titanium dioxide in them. So yes, you get erected, and then you proceed to ejaculate, which causes more strain and stress on the tubes, which can then blow more of these tubes and cause more damage. And eventually you basically can't do anything. So again, this is all about male castration. There's been an assault on men today. Anyone who still has any testosterone, anyone who still has a brain in their head, to diminish them or break them down in any way, shape, or form.
So, and what, let's say, how, I'm so puzzled right now. Okay. How do we distinguish between nano silver and the real stuff?
The size of the particle. Again, nano's on a billionth, and the colloidal should be on a micron. When you contact, the only way you're going to know is you have to contact the companies, because even the way they've labeled the bottles is wrong.
Oh, okay.
It's totally wrong. It's not a part per million. It's a part per billion, and that's what they're selling people. And like I said, just on the label alone, I'm surprised nobody has taken the court on that, because it's not on a micron level. And then the charge of the particles are also different than they are on a micron level. They're stronger, so they can actually cause more damage on a cellular level and on the DNA level. So when you see a lot of the studies out there on this stuff, you have to actually examine who put the study out. Is it the companies that are perpetrating the product? Of course, their studies are going to show it's perfectly safe. Use it. This is what we've seen with it, blah, blah, blah. Their fame to shame is we take nano silver, it saturates the cells and kills the pathology faster and quicker than the colloidal silver does. Well, that may or may not be true depending on how you look at it. Yes, it does kill the thing faster, but it kills the cells as well. Whereas a colloidal particle will attach itself to the cell, discharge its charge, and then remove itself or get removed by the body and gets excreted. Whereas the nano silver can then now translocate to other parts of the body, like the brain, the spine, the spleen, pancreas, skeletal tissue, lungs. That's what I've always wanted.
But that is not the only attack. I guess when we look at fertility rates and glyphosate, then we have a lot of issues there as well.
Well, of course, the glyphosates alone have their own issues, and they disarm the body. They go into the colon, they strip out the body all the healthy bacteria, and they strip out of the body the 8 key vital minerals that the body requires to create the enzymes and the antioxidants and to work with the DNA. When you're talking then taking in or intaking the nanometals, the body then will use those because it doesn't have the other things that it needs, and then the genetic code and everything else starts to go wacko. And so you have no immune system, because once you disengage the gut, your immune system is all but gone. So then when you're adding any kind of nano, it doesn't matter what it is, nano silver, nano copper, nano iodine, nano gold, nano calcium, nano magnesium, nano potassium, anything nano titanium, nano barium. We are now dealing with a whole new paradigm. And when you read the safety on these metals, all those metals I just mentioned are all genotoxic. So we're not dealing with the same thing, and this is where they got the general population right now bamboozled and deceived. They got everybody believing that this is the same kind of thing, but stronger and better, and it's not at all. It's a complete deception going on.
So, how do we get rid of these, let's say biofilms?
That's the easier one.
Okay.
Basically, all you need is a shot of brandy and 2 different types of essential oils. You can use any kind. You can use thyme, savory, oregano. You can use balsam fir, pine, Siberian pine. You can use cedar like Tuja, Tuja occidentals. You can use juniper berry. Any 2 of those, 1 or 2 drops, a shot of vodka, and drink that down will start removing heavy amounts of biofilm. You can use also copper and zinc, copper chloride and zinc chloride, which we show you how to make. These are very effective at getting the biofilm down. Nobody talks about salt or chlorides, and the chlorides are very important in keeping biofilm in check. The reason why we're getting the biofilm the way we're getting it today is because our bodies are loaded with the nano particulates, and what happens is the biofilm is part of the body's immune system. Several dozen strands of bacterium will gather together and assault whatever's invading the body. And then what winds up happening is the stronger bacterium kill the weaker ones, and using those proteins to bind or contain whatever they can't break down. And then what happens, though, is because the technology is now contained in a protein-bound encasement, it uses those proteins to develop a fullerene or whatever it needs to develop, because it needs some kind of ligand or some kind of component where it can now attach itself to in its assembly. So that's how we get hijacked. A lot of yeast infections women have are not yeast infections. It's biofilm overload in the uterus or in the cervix or in the ovaries. And a lot of women are using tampons, which have the nano silver embedded into the tampon, which then what happens when you put it into the vaginal area there, the biofilm starts to form around the tampon because it's a foreign matter. Now you have the nano silver that kills the bacterium, which produces more biofilm. So when they change the pad, every time they change the pad, they leave traces amounts of the pad inside of them. As a result, over decades or over a short period of time, they have a buildup of this material that can get lodged on the inside, very deep on the inside, and can start causing, again, mayhem on the immune system. And I've had women use vinegar and water 50-50 and adding 10 drops of iodine, Lugol's iodine, in the mixer and do douches. And some of the women have sent me pictures of what has come out. And again, you'd be surprised. But again, a lot of this is also assembling inside the female reproductive system as well. So this has been a complete sabotage on so many different fronts.
Yeah, that caters to the overall depopulation agenda.
I would say so. And again, if you're not, I think this is also a weeding out process. If you're strong and survive, you get to be the slaves. If you're weak and die, oh well, we'll use your DNA for something else. That's how I'm interpreting it these days. But yeah.
Okay. So you said that is the easy part, to get rid of the biofilm, and you drink that brandy, right?
Yeah. Sometimes several times a day.
Okay. And if you do not like alcohol or you can't drink it,
then you may want to try vinegar. And again, try using the essential oils with vinegar. Or you can even try using the essential oils with some light oil as a carrier, which will act as a coating. The alcohol is probably the best medium because of the way it absorbs and the way it carries things into the cells. I know there are people who have specific religious concepts against alcohol, or some people are alcoholics and they can't go near alcohol, and I do get that. So in their case, they would need a different carrier to take the essential oils into the system. Now, mind you, it may not be as effective as quickly as alcohol, but it will be effective.
Okay. So I have noticed that a lot of people are complaining about weird sleep patterns. Do you think that has a connection to this assault with nanotechnology and frequencies in general?
Well, I didn't get the first part. What are they complaining about?
Weird sleep patterns, meaning...
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's no question. I stayed up one night, 24 hours, just to follow the frequency pattern. And the pattern that I found that seems to be global, everybody is not sleeping between 2 and 4 a.m. Doesn't matter what time zone you're in.
And why exactly that time?
That I'm not sure. I can only speculate there. Whether the towers are being amplified, whether the smart meters are sending information back to the central network, whether they're experimenting on us, whether there's some kind of assault going on us to break us down while we're sleeping. Because you got to remember, between 2 and 4 a.m. is when your body releases regenerating hormones or growth hormones, so the body can regenerate. You break the sleep pattern between 2 and 4 a.m., you do not regenerate. Instead, you produce high levels of cortisol, which again further exacerbates your immune system. Usually the patterns is 11 to 12 midnight, 2 to 4 a.m., 5 to 8 p.m. Sorry, 5 to 8 a.m., 11 to noon, 3 in the afternoon or 3 p.m., 5 to 8 p.m. at night, 11 to midnight. That seems to be the pattern or the cadence of these frequencies. Unless they're altering the weather, unless they're making some sort of modifications in the atmosphere, they're doing some kind of experiment, those are usually the times when you're getting hit. I mean, you know, so between 5 and 8 in the morning, when you get up, you're very lethargic. You can hardly move. You don't feel like you want to do anything. Your body's sore. That's because the terahertz frequencies have been hitting you all night long, causing the cells to again release their hydrogen, further causing high levels of microwave damage because it does penetrate 9 centimeters or a little bit over 4 inches inside the body. So now you're dehydrated, your cells are damaged, and as soon as you drink some water or tea or any kind of beverage in the morning, you feel a little bit more vital or more alive, or at least you feel a little bit more mobility come back. But this is the reason why people are suffering a lot of the health issues they're suffering. They're not resting, they're being assaulted in their sleep. Unless you got a Faraday cage or different type of frequency devices that can block frequencies, the sleep will be continually disrupted.
And how would we build a Faraday cage like that?
There's lots of ways to do it. I mean, you can go to a hardware store and buy the aluminum mesh that they use for doors, connect several of them together and hang them over the bed so that they covers the whole bed, and then ground the mesh so that the ground will go into the, because any charge that the net will pick up will spread it across the net. And eventually you can build up a charge where now you have a capacitance going on. So if you have a discharge or a means for it to discharge, like running it into the ground, it will discharge it away from you. You can wear grounding straps as well on the body, again connected to a direct ground, which again will release anything that you may get hit with while you're sleeping. You can create toroidal fields in your room. You can, like I said, you can shield the room by putting aluminum sheets around the room and again grounding them, or you can use special paint that blocks frequencies, or you can use lead paint. And again, you have to ground the walls when you do this. So if you don't ground the walls, basically then any signal that gets into your room, if it's not, doesn't have somewhere to go, the signal will ricochet and bounce all over the place.
And it might be even worse than before.
I'm maybe not, maybe. I guess it depends on how you define that. It'll be more consistent for sure. And again, if there's a steady flow coming into the room, definitely it'll amplify and continue to amplify. So yeah, you have to have some outlet for it to go.
Mm-hmm. So now many people will say, but my sleep is perfectly fine.
What? Say that again?
My sleep is perfectly fine. What would you tell those people?
Nothing. I would tell them build a shielding because it ain't gonna last. Well, because you got to remember, I've been dealing with this for 7 or 8 years, and I've been dealing with people on this for 4 to 5 years. And I've had people, I tell them, leave the grains alone, leave this alone, leave that alone. They just fluff me off. Well, I'm fine. I don't have anything going on, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
2 years later, usually within a 2-year time frame, almost every one of them are crawling on the floor. Help me, I'm dying. Oh, yeah, whatever. You know, and I tell them, I told you, leave that crap alone. Because all you kept doing is putting it in, and it's not coming out like you think. And so once they reach a certain saturation point, the activation initiates on its own, and now you're suffering. And by the time they figured it out, this is now has embedded all the way down to the last layer of skin. You know, so I would encourage everybody, leave the grains alone. You know, and when you're talking gluten-free is genetically modified. If you're taking the protein out of the bread, that's genetic engineering. And if you're taking it out of the bread, what do you got? Nothing. Gluten never caused anybody any problems. That was always the excuse that they used. It's the genetics and the genetically engineering of the grain is the problem. Our ancestors ate bread all the time, never had any issue. I used to eat bread. When I did, it was rye. I didn't even eat the wheat, and I was having problems. I was eating either a German rye, a Russian rye, or a Jewish rye bread. And I never had problems until I got assaulted with this thing. And every time I ate it, I broke out badly. So I found that once I quit and then got past the psychology of eating bread, which took 7 months, I was fine. And that was what, 12 years ago. So, that has to go. And people will fight with you on it. And I come to the conclusion, you know what? I'm not going to fight with you anymore. I'm going to let the pain teach you, because pain is the best teacher.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, no pasta, no bread, no rice, no cereals.
These are the number one staples on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, number one staple is rice. That's the bread of the world, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Asians consume it, Hispanic people consume it, East Indian people consume it, Africans consume it. It's consumed in Europe and the United States and Canada as well, all throughout South America. These are, but in Canada, U.S. and Europe, it's not the main staple. It is one of them. With us, it's either rye, wheat, barley, or oat. Those are the big ones for Europe and North America. So for Mexico, again, it's more rice. So when you look at what they've done, they've basically genetically engineered all the main staples on the planet. Who's got the highest population in the world? China, the Asians, the East Indians, and the Hispanic cultures. They hold about 4 billion people on the planet. Who would you want to target the most? There's an assault going on Europeans right now, especially in Canada, and when they use the term white person, they're basically demeaning Europeans in another form. None of us are white, we're European, and that's the culture that we come from. I come from a Southern European background, and there are those of the Northern European background. But again, if you look at the population in Europe, what's going on in Europe, the average birth is about 1.1 to 1.3 in just about all the developed countries in Europe. It's not sustainable. The Europeans that are here today may be the last of a dying breed, because the next generation or two will have either faded out through lack of reproduction, or might be breeded out through, again, intermarrying, whatever, which again, I have no problem with that. But when we're talking in terms of a cultural identity, that will be gone. And then if you talk about being European, that gets highly ostracized and criticized very badly today. So, there's a big attack on the European people of that descent. And what did they target? They targeted the food supply. What do the Germans love to eat the most? Is beer. What's beer? Beer is bread. That marzipan.
Yeah, that is true.
I got a friend of mine, he's German, and in the winter months, I always go up to him, you, and I have I speak Canadian to him, Germans, you ruined my diet with the marzipan. He starts laughing. He says, you could have won the war with just marzipan. So anyway, yeah, okay. It's an assault. It's just a big, huge assault going on.
Why are so little people aware of this?
Well, like I said, there was no research done on this for almost 20 years. And all of a sudden, people were having restless leg syndrome and all these syndromes back in the 60s, and nobody gave any real explanation. And again, it wasn't until Brian 396 and myself started looking at this thing and going back and peeling and peeling and peeling. And I discovered that they were adding silica into the food supply back as early as 1960. And what they were doing, initially, they were feeding it to the cattle and to the poultry and to the sheep and the goats and the pigs. Then they decided to take a look and see what it was doing. When they saw it was breaking DNA strands and causing high levels of mutations, they buried the study. They quit the study right then and there. Then some goofball got it into the health food industry and started making all these proclamations behind it, and it was sold in the health food industry. But after 10 years, once they were putting it in all the grain products, all the breads, all the cereals, all the pastas, whatever, They're putting it in on all the lentils, all the beans, all the vegetables, all the peas. Anything that was stored in the silo was getting this coating of it on there, which then was penetrating into the material. After 10 years, we had restless leg syndrome, which we never had before. We had fibromyalgia, which we never had before. Cancers had accelerated by a factor of 4. Autoimmune disorders, again, increased by a factor of 4. Prior to that time, that never happened. That was never even looked at. But because, like I said, nobody was looking at that as a problem because, again, the studies were buried. So a lot of stuff, when you start going back and you start seeing like some of the early studies that they did with zebrafish. Now, the argument that the perpetrators of C60 were saying there was the too lean in the C60 that caused the problem with the zebrafish. My argument is this: too lean can cause problems, but not necessarily, but you would have to be an exceptionally high amount of it in order for that to occur. But when you add the carbon C60 with it, it seemed that the carbon C60 amplified the toxicity of the too lean. So this is another argument that you can say that if you combine carbon C60 with some kind of toxic element, or if there's one already there, it may actually amplify the destructive problems that these other components may be having. So, like I said, their studies are completely at fault. And everybody is looking only at the one study. So the same thing with the nano. Nobody was looking at it until, like I said, Brian 396 and myself, and he was the one actually. To give credit where credit was due, he was the one that actually discovered the connection. Okay, Gwen Scott discovered the connection with the pseudo life form and called it artificial life. He discovered the connection with the nano implication to it, and then he caught a hold of me, and then we started. And I looked at the connection between the biology aspect and the nano, and he was already looking at that too. And then I started looking at solutions to dealing with this thing. But we were the ones that started getting, hey, pay attention here. We're being screwed here, and nobody's looking. So that's, like I said, it was buried. You have to understand, nano, anything today in any form of industry or technology is worth $2.6 trillion a year.
Mm.
So we're not going to see any major changes in the nano exposure. In fact, they don't care. The 5G is going to be using carbon nano in order to be utilized as a conductive material to transmit the frequencies, because carbon C60, as I stated, is a superconductor, and they've got something else now that's even more conductive and a lot stronger, is a carbomer material that's made out of something similar to C60, but it's 3 times stronger than C60. So C60 is 100 times stronger than steel and 3 times stronger than diamond. So now you got a material that's even more dense than that material. If you made a suit of armor with that material, a bullet would not be able to penetrate it. We're talking 50 caliber. So, and a lot of new AI robots that they're producing today, they're using these kind of materials. They are going to be very difficult to bring down unless you understand electromagnetic pulses or electrical staggered pulses, static charges, in order to wipe these things out. Because again, they are going to be pretty, the way they're wired and the way they're built, they're not going to be, and again, they're going to be patrolling their streets soon enough, if they haven't already. And the United States military is going to have more AI robots in its military than it's going to have people, because they're already forecasting that the people that may be serving in the armed forces may not be healthy enough to serve because of the breakdown that's going on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they experimented on military personnel quite a bit.
Oh, that's been going on since the Second World War. You know, when you see the movie Captain America or some of these Superman superhero movies that they're showing, that is what they've been working on since probably the First and Second World War. Germany was working on it. Russia was working on it. The U.S. was working on it. You know, they are probably by now have perfected it to some level, altering genetics, incorporating nanotechnology, and incorporating AI technology with it. There was a video out back in the 1960s where the U.S. military took a naval soldier. They took out his stomach. They put in this chamber. They wired his eyes up. They had his brain wired up so that they had him on the remote control. And he was walking through the jungles of South America, spewing out this chemical and breathing out some kind of flame. And they had him in such pain that he didn't know where he was at or what he was. He looked hideous and monstrous. And he was killing villages left, right, and center. This is one of the things that the United States alone had initiated, you know, with some of its personnel. Because you got to remember, once you sign up in the military, they own you. They can do whatever they want with you.
Yeah. When I'm listening to you, then it sounds as if these so-called health food stores are poisoning stores.
Today, yeah. You have to really read the labels. You have to read the other ingredients. I gave an example, some of the stupidity in this industry. We had a guy here selling a product, a whey protein product, and he got caught only putting 5 grams of whey protein and the rest was some sort of carbohydrate, a polymer material. Well, people were using this stuff and noticing some kind of energy surge. And so this guy started talking about the universe and the universal energies and the universal consciousness and the universal, and it was all a bunch of baloney, all of it. Okay, what was happening was people were using, because they had such higher levels of sugar with the protein, it was causing an insulin spike, which took whatever amino acids that were free and loose to be utilized more readily by the body. But again, it wasn't enough to really help as far as building the body. It gave you an energy spike, and that's all it was meant. That's all that would do. So it was a means of deceiving the general population, making them think that they're feeling something with this product when all they're feeling is a sugar rush. Other products will have aluminum lake, titanium dioxide, artificial natural flavors, which are aborted baby proteins. Others will have microcrystalline cellulose, which is a pine fiber that you can't break down. Hypercross caramellose, another polymerized material. Cross caramellose, soy, and many variations of soy that they don't necessarily call it soy. They'll call it TVP or AVP or HPP or HVP. So they got all these things that are put now in the pills which are designed to create a neutralizing effect. Some of the top name brand companies that you're dealing with are loaded with these excipients, you know. And I tell people all the time, you must read the labels batch to batch. They will change it. I'll give you another example. There's a company that sells almond milk. I think Almond Breeze. So when you read the label, one will say it has natural flavor. Another one won't have that on the label. Now they're adding this material called gellan, Gellan. I'm not sure what it is exactly. It's some kind of hydrogel technology. Now, again, I don't know if it's made in a lab. There's very little information that I could find on it. So when I see that there's very little information that somebody can find on something, it makes me very leery of what is in this thing. There might be information now, but at that time, when I looked at it, I didn't see too much. Basically, it's another material like guar gum or xanthium gum that has a binding effect so it can keep the fat and the water from separating when you buy the product. But again, when you read the components, 1 week it's one thing, another week it's something it does, you know, 1 week it'll have it, 1 week it won't. And this is going on in the vitamin industry as well. Some of the stuff that some of them are creating a liposome using soy. Like, why are we using soy products? You know, we don't have to. Sunflower lecithin is more than adequately better than the soy. Less glyphosate to deal with. So again, yeah, you have to read. The health food industry is not a healthy place. It used to be the sacred Mecca where everybody would go and, you know, find some solution. Today, you go there and you better know what you're looking at.
Mhm. So you said that we find nanotech in all our berries, bananas, and what have you. So
Oh,
now,
it's in everything. I mean,
mhm.
if you were to take a scope, a 60x scope, and I don't care where you go, you choose. Choose a store, any store. Choose a garden. Choose a farm. Choose anything. I don't care where you go.
Mhm.
And you take a 60x or 100x ocular with you and take a look at the vegetation and then try to rub that off. You're going to be in for one rude awakening. And I issued that challenge on one of my YouTubes. I actually had people contact me, even over in Europe. One guy in England had a garden. He decided to check his garden. He says everything was saturated with it. Everything, he said. He says, I don't spray nothing. And then when he went to the grocery store, he said he saw the same thing. Even when he went to the restaurants, he started looking at stuff. He's seen it there too. He says, it's in everything. I said, yeah, I know. I said, some things more than others. Your cherries are saturated completely. The skins of peaches completely saturated, and that goes right to the core. The bananas, when we looked at them, I was surprised. I figured the skin would be thick enough to create a blockage. It was like it wasn't even there. You peeled the banana, you looked at the skin, it was loaded, and then you looked at the meat of the banana, and again, loaded, totally loaded.
Hmm.
So,
So what if I have I have a greenhouse? What then?
greenhouse would give you a lot better quality. You
Hmm.
just have to make sure you're putting nutrients, minerals and stuff into and bacteria into your soil. But as long as it's covered and it's shielded, you're still going to get some. I mean, it's in the air, but it will be a lot less. It would be far less than what you're going to get anything at any grocery store. If you were to take a green laser, I got one of these green lasers that shoot up 10 miles up in the air. And if you put that on the ground and you fired it straight up and then moved the laser, you would see how dense the air is loaded with the nano. It's at ground level. So anything you can do to grow stuff indoors, I would encourage greatly.
Okay. Yeah. Well, not everybody has that opportunity, but it's good
And you're going to make $1 million when you sell your stuff.
to um, I would like to go back to this disease, what some people call Morgellons. I know it's not the correct term, but let's just use it for now because many people have an idea what we are talking about.
Call it nano poisoning because you got to get people's vernacular correctly on where it is. If you keep calling it Morgellons, that's what they're going to keep using, and they're
Okay.
going to keep on. They're going to keep on following what I call the bullshit that they're
Okay.
following. So if you call it what it is, nano poisoning,
Okay.
or synthetic biology poisoning,
Mm-hmm.
that you got to get them on that theme because once you do, then they're on the verge of removing the material because the way it is right now, nobody can offer you anything for Morgellons because again they don't know it doesn't exist. But when you start talking in terms of nano poisoning, now you got something tangible that you can go after and deal with. Okay, and again, everything that we're dealing with on a disease level is a secondary effect from a primary cause. In other words, you got a fungal overgrowth, or you got a bacterial overgrowth, or you got viral infections, or you've got mold going on in the body. That's not the problem. That's the end result from another problem. And the
Mm.
other problem is because your body's been poisoned with these particulates and have been assembling and have been accumulating biofilm. It has caused a complete reorientation of your body's DNA, and now as a result, your immune system is no longer able to respond with the proper response, or you don't have what's inside your body to create the response required to deal with these things. These are all secondary things. Cancer is a secondary
Mm-hmm.
affliction. It's not the primary thing. So when a doctor is treating your cancer, basically what he's doing is he's keeping your cancer alive at a specific level so that you don't recover. See, I don't want to treat a disease. I want to help a person restore completely. So we say the word heal or fix or whatever. They have a tendency to get a little annoyed with that because you're doing something that they're supposed to be doing and they're not. So when they're treating a disease, this is again, it's a word crafting game. They are keeping that issue functioning and keeping it functioning at a certain level so that you are in constant suffering.
Have you ever investigated why some people show symptoms of nano poisoning and some people do not?
It's a matter of saturation and activation. That's all that is.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's becoming more prevalent than you know. I get people calling me from all over the world: India, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, Germany, lots, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Sweden, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Greece, um, Yugoslavia, well, what's left of it, Italy, across Africa, Caribbean, South America, across Canada, across the U.S. It's not a simple little thing anymore that you only heard about it in small spurts. It is becoming a global issue, big time.
And it has strictly to do with the saturation.
And activation, both.
Okay, and the activation takes place via frequencies?
Yep. Yep. I think today it's all our AI operated today. I don't think it anymore. It's just a military experiment done by military personnel. I think now today it's all being done through artificial intelligence. And so too many people are coming online too quick. And it seems like if you have a specific criteria, if you believe in God, it doesn't matter what your religion is. If you are a specific gender, specific culture, specific intellect, they're hitting you. They don't care if you're men or women. Seems like the women have been hit for a long time. A lot have been suffering from these issues. Have gone to doctors and spent massive fortunes and had no results. I've had people contact me saying they'd been prognosed with Lyme, and after 10 years going through the process, not getting any results. We get them on the bucket. We get them to change their diet, taking the baths, and I get calls 3 days later telling me how great and wonderful they're feeling. They haven't felt that good in 10 years. Again, everyone's been misdiagnosed with the Lyme disorder. This is the new cancer of today. Oh, you got cancer. Oh, you got breast cancer. You got ovarian cancer. You got testicular cancer. You got penile cancer. You got lung cancer. You got brain cancer. You got heart cancer. That's what they used to do back in the day. Now, oh, you got Lyme disease. You got Lyme disease. Lyme disease, if you had anybody had Lyme, could cure that within 2 weeks by running a static charge through the body. But if you don't have Lyme and you run a static charge through the body, you will hyperactivate the nano assembly going on in the body. So you got to be extremely careful with that. So if you run a charge, all of a sudden you have an explosion of lesions forming all over your body. That's the last charge you put through your body, because the next one, may take you over.
Okay. But you said they changed their diet. But if everything is laced in nanotechnology, then
if you don't stop the bread, you hyper accelerate the growth, because you got a carbon material there with whatever nanoparticulate they put in there. If you're eating any of the fruits and vegetables, again, you will hyper accelerate the assembly, because again, these are high carbon materials that this has an affinity with. It loves carbon. So with the carbon consumption, you are going to create more of the assembly at a more rapid rate. Consuming high levels of saturated fat will help remove this out of the body. Consuming high levels of omega-3 will accelerate the assembly in the body, because it breaks down the saturated fat content in your body that protects you. So the omega-3 was the biggest joke again going, and none of the omega-3 products on the market, I don't care where you go, they've been tested in 16 countries, they're all rancid. So basically you're buying leftover shit oil that the health food industry is known to do, is to sell shit products, because it costs too much money for companies, fishing companies or other companies, to dump this oil. So they feed it to you, you basically crap it out in the toilet, the city has to deal with it. It saves them money, and this is what they've done. So a lot of stuff sold in the health industry was designed purposely to create a major hijacking to prepare people to be afflicted.
Let's talk a little bit about that bath that you mentioned, because I think we have to give this a little a little turn to the positive.
Well,
Somebody who has never heard about this, that person might feel as if he or she has been slept for an hour now.
well, I mean, it's a shitty game that shitty deck of cards they have dealt us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still standing, and so is Brian, and we've been dealing with it for 8 years. And
Mm-hmm.
we've been able to reduce the load in our bodies. And so what we've done is we showed everybody how to do it. I gave them, if you go on my website, augmentedforce.com, and you access the recipe for a YouTube link, in there you'll see the anti-nano bucket. We show you how to build it. We show you how to build it on YouTube. We showed you how to build a triangle. And we also have a thing there called nano solutions. So in there's a whole protocol that you can follow to help you, again, start reducing this and getting this out of your body. The baths require 4 different salts, trisodium phosphate, Epsom salt, borax, and baking soda. You can put an essential oil in there. It's not necessary, but you can do it if you wish. Make sure you mix the salts very well in the tub, and you sit and soak in it. Now, if you've got a high load in your body, then I have people take 7 baths in a row. In other words, they sit there for a half hour, come out, drain the tub, reload it with hot water, add the salt mixture again, and soak. And because you got 7 layers of skin, another 3 layers below that, what happens is you start removing the topical layers, the stuff in the surface will start to come up to the top. As a result, you'll start seeing, you will start seeing relief because you've diminished the load. And these baths should be done regularly. And the bucket, again, it's a type of disengagement technology where it causes the programming into the particles to be wiped out. And so all you have left now is inert metal, which now can be removed by the body by using this pulsing technology. So we show you how to build it, easy enough. You apply these things and you should see results.
Okay, that is wonderful. And I would like you to come back. I would like to end it for now, simply because I think that is a lot to take in, especially for somebody who has never heard about it, and that is a lot to process. Yeah, don't you think?
You didn't even get the tip of the iceberg yet.
Yeah, I know.
You know what? No, I agree with you. It is, first, when you get hit with it, the first thing that happens is you get voice to head technology. It hits you.
Yeah.
You can't win. You may as well quit, go and die, forget it. It puts you, because you're in a depressed state at that point. Then the second thing that happens is you start getting mad. You get pissed off that somebody had the audacity to violate your personage without your permission and use you as an experiment. And the third thing that happens is you get active and you become activated and you become an activist. This has been the theme. So the overwhelming part is I don't get too concerned. They need to get overwhelmed. They need to wake up. They need to also go investigate what I said, so that they get that I'm just not making some crap up. They can now go look it up. There's enough information out there now to tell you and indicate to you that this is what's going on. And now, because pioneers like Brian 396 and myself have already been going through it, and people that have been affiliated with us for 5 to 7 years as well, have also been going through it and getting better and reducing the load and improving their health. This, for anybody new, should inspire hope, because the work has already been done, and now you can get in there and get help. Now there's something substantial that may actually assist you. So, so there is a lot of positive here as a result of all that's been going on. So it's just a matter of standing up to the plate. You're going to have your moments where you're going to be afraid. That's normal. Just don't let it rule you.
Yeah, you live up to the occasion.
That's it.
Concerning the 5G, for years and years and years, I haven't had a cell phone. I refuse to carry that around with me. But I guess with the 5G, that won't matter anymore.
Well, because like I said, you're loaded with the nano. Your DNA is an antenna. And when you add these components to your personage, you amplify the frequency. And you got to remember, in order for the frequency to cause you damage, it has to have some kind of access. And this nanotechnology, this nanobiology gives them that access. So you can shield yourself. And again, as you remove this material from the body and cause it to diminish in your system, the less access they have, the less they can do to you.
Okay. Yeah. So if you're willing to come back, then maybe we concentrate next time on how to get rid of that shit as much as possible.
Now you're speaking Canadian. Yeah, no problem. I have no problem with that. I mean, if I can help in any way, I will. Look, all you gotta do is go to my website, augmentinforce.com.
Yes, and it will be linked down below in the description box. Use the description box.
Okay, so then from there, go to the recipe for YouTube. There's all kinds of information there. You'll see the anti-nano bucket and nano solutions. Go there, download it. It's all free, no charge. You know, I don't need your firstborn. I don't need your credit card, none of that. Go get it and use the information. That's what it's there for.
Yeah, wonderful. Wow, that was quite a stunner. Yeah, I know, not for people who have been looking into these subjects for a long, long time, but I guess for people who are not really familiar with it, it's quite a lot.
Pretty soon, you guys will all get caught up. You'll surpass me, you'll take over, and I can take a nap, and we'll all be happy.
Oh, sorry. Okay, Tony, thank you so much for coming, and I hope you come back, and I can't wait. So this was Night Flight for today. Have a good week wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
And you too. Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye.